All right, so here we have Hriyanshu's file. So I'm just going to quickly open that file. Let's open it. And all right, so here's what I have when I opened Hriyanshu's file. And let's take a quick look. So before I play anything, what I want to do is I want to create another panel. All right, so we have one panel for the camera as always. And so here I'm going to come in here and create the camera view. All right. And here we're going to look at this like this. Okay, I'm going to hide the toolbar. We don't need that. I'm going to hide the toolbar. And let's take a look at what Riyansh has. So first, let's just bring this to the front. All right. And now we're going to play the animation. So here I can see, let me just zoom in a bit. Yes. Okay. And then I'm going to lock the frame again. Okay. So I can see your spaceship here is pretty big and it's intersecting into the terrain. All right. And let's see the animation now. Okay, so it kind of takes off and goes away from the camera. All right, and that's not what we want, and also we don't want this intersection. So to fully understand what's happening, let's take a look here. Okay, now I'm trying to show you the method of trying to troubleshoot when you get into trouble. So with the camera here I can see what's happening in the camera, and now with the view here I can actually see what's going on. All right, so I'm gonna just pull out a bit here and I'm gonna play the animation again, and I can see okay, so I can see him fly up. So he kind of takes off, he flies up, but at this point he actually passes the camera. You can see here he's passing underneath the camera. Let's take a closer look. Yeah, so the camera is pointed here and this is our view, and he kind of passes under the camera. Now let's see what he does actually. So the there you go. So now you can see, now if I were to turn off the ground plane, which I assume is this one, let's turn off the ground plane. Okay, so if we were to look at that and play the animation now, you can see this is the point at which the airplane actually stops moving and he does his flip, right? So this is where our camera should be. So before I do anything, let me move my camera. So one of the primary issues here is that your camera kind of moved its position. Okay, so I'm going to come in here and navigate my camera, so you can see my camera is moving here, but I'm actually moving around here. There you go. And now I'm going to bring the camera into position and try to frame my spaceship in the center. Now let's see if it works. There you go. So here we have our spaceship enter, does its thing in the center of the frame, and then exits. Okay, of course there are some issues with the keyframes. We'll take a look at it. So first off, we don't want, so you can see, let me select the spaceship empty, so it brings up all the keyframes. Okay, and I suspect that there are a double keyframes here, because you can see now if I were to scrub here, he's in this position. You see that there's this jump happening to between 0 and 2. So if I were to zoom in by rolling my mouse, middle mouse, I'm going to zoom in all the way on my front keyframes, and you can see that you actually have two keyframes here back to back, right? And that's causing that jump, tup. You see that? Tup. So we don't want that, right? So I'm just going to go ahead and select these keyframes. Okay, and I'm going to hit X on the keyboard to delete that. And I'm just going to select these keyframes and hit G on the keyboard to move it. And there you go, bring it to 0. All right, so now we have the spaceship, but now the spaceship is kind of, it's kind of moving up, right? It's going up. And let's take a closer look. How do I know it's moving up? Because if I were to bring up the item menu, okay, you can see that the Z value, okay, changes. So at this keyframe, the Z value is 0.29. And if I move ahead, you can see that the Z value has changed to 7.5. Okay, now let me go ahead. I'm zooming out of the timeline. Let me go ahead to the next keyframe and see. It's 7. And let's see the next keyframe. Okay, it's 7. And the next keyframe, it's 7. So actually the Z position doesn't need to change, right? It needs to be 7 throughout. Okay, the only thing is in our first two keyframes, it's off, right? So let's go ahead and change that. So I'm going to come up into the first keyframe and change this to 7. Okay, and you can see now it's orange. I'm going to hit I on the keyboard, and there you go, it's 7. Of course I have to change the next keyframe as well, because right now here it is, although it's close to 7, 7.5, but we want to be accurate, so I'm going to click on 7, and I'm going to, and now what we should expect is that the plane or the spaceship flies in a straight line. It's not taking off. So let's take a look. There you go. You can see it's coming in, does its thing, and goes out. All right. Cool. So this is what we wanted. All right. Okay. And at the end, you can see that the spaceship doesn't exit fully, right? It kind of comes back after this point. So that tells me that this keyframe, has a y value that's in the opposite direction because it's going forward on the y. See, it goes forward, and then at this point, from this keyframe onwards, it's coming back. Can you see? And so that means this value here, okay, this y value minus 13 will be lesser here. And let's take a look. There you go. You see, it's minus 11. Okay. So we want to also, we want to really exit this aeroplane. So I'm going to bump that value to say minus 20. So it's really far out. Okay. And then you can go and manually change. See, there you go. See, it's coming back to minus 11 because we have a keyframe that says minus 11. Okay. So you can go in here and change this to minus 20. Okay. I again. And then you come out here and this is minus 20 again. There you go. So now we've kind of corrected our animation without the terrain. You can see spaceship comes in. I'm actually fixing your blocking here, right? There you go. Okay. Now I want you to fix your rotation on your own, right? So you'll have to see it, look in here. Like for example, here you have your space keyframes, that is location keyframes, and then you have your rotation keyframes. So for example, he's rotating like that, and maybe you don't want him to rotate while he's moving. So what I'll do is I'll just select these rotation keyframes, just those. Can you see I've just selected these three? So it's these three, and then I move it G and I bring it back here, and now you'll see it'll rotate back into position and then it'll move. And then of course there is some kind of rotation coming in, because if you come in here you'll see that your values are not 0. See, it's 70. So let's go ahead and 0 that out, and and then of course these rotation keyframes you don't even need. So I'm going to select them and X, delete them, delete keyframes. There you go. And there you go. So now we have a spaceship coming in, flipping back, and then exiting. Now maybe the exit is too slow. Maybe you don't like how slowly it's going, right? And to do that, and of course, we don't need all these keyframes, because once it exits, it's done. So I'm just going to go ahead and select all of this and delete keyframes. So we've kind of simplified. Oh, you notice I deleted a keyframe that told it to get out of here, right? And that's why it's come back. So I'm going to undo that. Okay. And maybe we don't want these keyframes, and I'm not going to delete the last one here. X, delete keyframes. All right. So here we have a spaceship exit. Perfect. And now maybe, like I said, maybe he's flying out too slowly, right? And so we have to identify where those keyframes are. So it starts here at this point, 121. It kind of starts, and then, it ends at, here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select these here. Okay, actually not select there. That's not a good idea. What you want to do is you want to come in here and select these keyframes, right? So that's your X, Y, and Z location. And now I'm going to show you something. All right. With my scroll bar at the first selected keyframe, I'm going to hit S on my keyboard, and S, like in the viewport, it scales. So now notice what happens to the keyframes. I'm going to scale it, and there you go. You can see I'm scaling the keyframes, and this is what will speed up my animation. So when the keyframes are closer, the motion is faster. When the keyframes are further apart, the motion is slower, right? So let's take a look now. Boom, there you go. It went really fast. Now let me demonstrate. Of course, now these keyframes are for the rotation values, so we can bring them as well, okay, close by. And so let's keep them together. All right, and we'll select all of this. All right, and now see, if I were to scale with my scroll bar at the first keyframe, okay, I'm just demonstrating now. So I'm scaling it up and making it really far. Now notice how slowly it's going to happen. There you go. It's like a really old spaceship. All right. And the same thing if you were to scale it down. Okay. So I'm scaling it down, and now you can make it really fast. All right. So there you go. Let's go ahead and play this. Boom. Okay, so we have a nice spaceship coming in, doing a flip, flipping back, and then getting out. All right, so here we have, and now what we also want to do is we want to have the animation loop. Right now you can see that your active area is 0 to 241, and your animation actually ends here, right, at 150. Okay, so let's go ahead and come to 160 and probably end this at 160. So now my active area is 160, and now notice when I play, the animation will loop on its own. See, zoom, the spaceship comes back in, loops, flips, and then loops out. Perfect. Now we've corrected our spaceship animation, corrected our camera position. Okay, so we got everything, but let's go ahead and open our terrain. All right, and let's see if the terrain is working. Okay, so here we have the terrain. Now the terrain is moving pretty slow, and that's why it's making the spaceship look like it's moving really slow. Also, another thing that we want to figure out is that you can see the edge of our terrain, right? And that's not a good idea, because when we render this video, we'll have like a blank space here, and we actually want to see this space, see the terrain. So the way I'd fix this is, I'd zoom in on our spaceship. So let's do that. Okay, so I'm in this in the camera view, and I'm going to zoom in, right there you go. So we are zoomed in. Okay, but we're still able to see this. So now I'm going to use another approach. Okay, and that approach is to scale down our spaceship, and that's super easy because we don't have any scale keyframes on our spaceship, right? And our entire spaceship is hooked to this empty. So all we got to do to scale our spaceship is just click on the empty and hit S on the keyboard, and we can scale down our spaceship. And nothing changes. The animation remains the same. It's just that our spaceship is smaller. Now that our spaceship is smaller, our terrain looks a lot bigger. And so I can zoom in further, and I can also kind of orbit around a bit so that, I get rid of that edge there, right? And we're looking at the spaceship from a slightly top angle. Okay, and so now we've kind of fixed our framing as well. There you go. So we have a nice spaceship. It's a little smaller in the screen, right? And it looks a lot clearer. Okay, perfect. Now after this, okay, let's fix the speed of our terrain. So I'm going to come in here, and I can see that you've hooked two planes to the empty, and that's also fine. And I can see here is your keyframes, and right now you can see your keyframe is going all the way to 240. So we want to bring that back to 160. So I'm going to come in here and put in 160, so my scroll bar jumps to 160. All right, and I'm going to move this keyframe out here. Oops, I selected both. Let's undo that. Box select this keyframe, and G, bring it here. All right, okay, and so now you can see that our terrain is kind of running out. Okay, so let's correct our first keyframe. Okay, so I'm gonna turn off my item, and I can see that this is my camera, and this terrain, this keyframe probably is not the best keyframe, right? So let's go ahead and change that. So I'm going to move it on the y-axis. First I want to get rid of this gizmo, so I'm going to hit the T tool and just select the select box, and that got rid of the gizmo. And now with the empty selected, I'm going to hit G and Y and move it all the way as far as I can. Now you can see at this up edge here, you're seeing the terrain. So I'm going to move it a little back. There you go. So now you can see there is no terrain, right? And now interestingly, if you bring up your menu, you'll see that the Y value has changed. It's orange. It's time to keyframe it. So I'm going to hit I on the keyboard. Perfect. So this now is our start position. Okay. Now we need to get our end position. Now, of course, this end position is not workable. Okay, because of course it's going out of the frame, and it will not loop. Let's just play this animation, and I'm also going to turn off the spaceship for a bit. So I'm going to select all of these guys. Wow, your spaceship has a whole bunch of objects. So let's just go ahead and hide all of this so that we don't see the spaceship and we only see the environment. Okay, so there you go. So you can see the spaceship, the environment is traveling at a space, but then at the end it exits and then it kind of jumps back, right? And that's what we want to avoid. We want the first frame and the last frame to be exactly the same. So how do we do that, right? And so it's there in the tutorial, but let's do it here again. Okay, so I'm going to select the empty. Okay, and now I can see I'm exactly at the first frame, and I'm going to bring up the toolbar, and in the toolbar I'm going to use the annotate tool. Now this allows you to draw some lines, right, in your viewport. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to hit control space to maximize this view. So control space, there you go. And now I'm going to draw some lines to give me some reference point, right? So I can match it. So here's the line marking this shape here. Here's a line marking this shape here. Now I'm doing this with my mouse, so you can too, right? And you can see it's not very accurate, but it's more or less there. And that's why I'm drawing multiple such markers. So even if I'm not absolutely accurate, they will match, right? Okay, so I'm trying to draw as many unique points that represent this, and I'm trying to be as accurate as possible. The mouse doesn't help a lot, but it's fine for our purpose here. Okay, I'm trying to look for some more edges. All right, something like that, and this kind of here. Okay, and now let's minimize this. Okay, and let's move ahead all the way, and you can see that our lines remain in place. So that's a great way to match our last frame. So I'm going to come all the way to the last frame, and of course it's not matching, right? And that's why you just need to move the Y value, okay, and bring it to a point where it matches. And there you go, you can see. Let me just maximize this control space bar, and I'll bring up the item menu here, and now we can move this and match that. Can you see we are almost there? Yes, we are almost matched. Cool. Okay, now as you match this, perfect. Now I'm going to hit I on the keyboard here to keyframe this, and jumping out of that view, I'm hitting T to hide the toolbar, N to hide this menu, bring this down. Okay, and when you want to delete your annotate, all you have to do is with the annotate tool, just come up here, click on this note here, and you just cross this, and it'll delete that annotate, so you don't have that bugging you. And I'm just going to go back to my box select tool. Perfect. All right, so now we have this keyframe. Let's see if it loops now. Okay, is it looping? Yes, it is. There you go, it's a seamless loop. All right, so let's bring back our spaceship, and the keyboard shortcut to bring back stuff that you've hidden is Alt H. There you go. So I hit Alt H, and my spaceship has come back, and there you go, we have a spaceship, and it exits. See, it flies in, does its flip, and exits. And that brings us to the end of this little fix. I fixed your scene. Now I suggest you do this yourself, right? Don't use this file. Build it yourself, make the corrections yourself. Use this video as a reference to fix what went wrong in your file. All right, see you in the next one.